So I was gonna do a gamer ranks review to Unreal Engine 5 and the fallout with that, and so instead we're gonna react to a video by my guy Luke Stevens, and it's titled "Is This the Worst Console Generation?" To which I will have my thoughts shared at the end of it. But for now, I figured let's move on to something light. But yeah, we'll do something fun. This is short; it's only a 5-minute video, so hopefully this video is like 7-8 minutes. As always, like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell that's down there by my name if you are subscribed, and share.
Five. Hey Luke, is it fair to say this console generation is by far the first one or worst one? We had COVID scalpers, lack of original games, price hikes, etc. I wasn't here for some of the OG generations. It certainly feels bad. Is that the right way of saying it? It doesn't feel as fun as I remember like the PS4 gen feeling. But is that just nostalgia? Is that just my personal bias? I don't really know. There's been some amazing games this generation, don't get me wrong. Like, that's, I think, the danger with making a claim like that is that there's been some amazing games. You know, this generation brought us some absolute masterpieces in addition to some like lackluster ones as well. But I do think it's fair to say that certainly the feeling of the excitement that came with the generation didn't, like, it's not been on the same level as like the PS4 gen.
I will say, I think the issue with this generation, and this generation is going to be tied, forever linked with this issue in gaming, is when he touched at it. I think the market of gamers that can spend money on gaming, remember, are nostalgic about how they felt when they were playing on PS2 and PS3 and the feeling that they got from gaming back then. And companies weren't greedy. Game companies weren't greedy in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, late 2000s, even up until the 2010s. And then Battle Royale movement took over and live service took over, and I think that's what's going to latch itself onto this console generation, is the amount of live service games that were successful, like Fortnite, and on the PC side CSGO and Destiny and games like that. But also it's going to be remembered with the failures of every live service attempt. Suicide Squad, Guilty Justice League, for instance. And he does have a point. There's been incredible games. Baldur's Gate 3 came out this generation. We have KCD 2, we have Clair Obscur. Those are games from like the last 2 years, but there have been incredible games to come out on this hardware that we have available to us today. It's just overshadowed by the constant live service games that we're constantly getting fed, and then hearing about those failures and then having good studios make good single player games shut down in a greedy attempt to capture that magic of live service games. And in my last video, we talked about Epic Games having a downturn in Fortnite. So I think people are just getting tired of live service. I think we're getting tired of the extraction shooter, the survival shooter, the hero shooter. I think that's all. It will always have its place, and there will always be players that prefer it. Like, don't get me wrong, I love hopping on Call of Duty, and I love booting up with a friend or two and spending an hour or two and playing online with them. But I haven't done that in years, to be honest with you. So hard to say.
At least to me. Yeah, we've gotten like KCD 2, Expedition, Baldur's Gate 3, Elden Ring. I mean, there's a lot of like phenomenal games that we've gotten. So it's easy to just be like, yeah, this generation sucks. But I think more broadly, there's more amazing games coming out now than ever before. It's just that like the big tentpole AAA stuff has really been limping recently, pretty clearly, with like PlayStation's exclusives have been really, really struggling to maintain consistent like output. You're looking at Naughty Dog. They've not released something in 6 years, which, like we said the other day when we talked about it, I didn't realize the time from, so when we get Intergalactic, almost certainly next year, that will have been 7 years between main releases. But Luke, they had remasters. I don't care. 7 years between releases. Last of Us 2 to Intergalactic. 2013, they launched The Last of Us Part 2. 2016, they launched Uncharted 4. 2017, they launched Lost Legacy. And 2020, they launched The Last of Us Part 2. So in a 7-year window, they put out all of that, whereas in this 7-year window, like we're getting intergalactic. It's just
And that's another good point. Games are taking so long to come out that these bigger studios are putting out one game every console generation. Two, if they get it just right, where they launch at the very beginning and at the very end, also hurts because you get this framework of just not enough games, you know. Like he said, you had 5 games within 7 years, and I get it. The Uncharted Lost Legacy game was being made at the same time as Uncharted 4, so that makes sense. And I guarantee you, Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2, they were working on Part 2 towards the end of Part 1's life, so they kind of already had a direction where that game was going. So, but the problem is games. I feel like developers believe games have to be so big and so massive, where they're taking so long for these games that people are having wild expectations for these games, you know? Like when you're GTA, when you're Rockstar, and people are waiting 10 years between RDR2 and GTA 6, they're going to expect some very big things. Rockstar is going to deliver. And even if they don't, people are going to buy it regardless, and it's still going to be an outstanding game. I don't think it's going to be RDR2 level of fidelity. I think RDR2, it's so special in its time because it was so good, so visually. To this day, it is still a visually stunning game. And the RPG elements around the game and the way the world reacts to you, the player, holds up to this day. GTA is going to be like that in a sense, and they're going to do things that GTA 5 just scratched the surface on. But again, the longer people have between releases, hear me out. You're a Fallout fan. You're not a Bethesda fan. You just love the game of Fallout. And you look at Bethesda as a studio and you're like, wow, by the time I get Fallout 5 from Fallout 4, it's going to be about 18 years. So my expectations of a game that took 18 years, because again, I'm not taking into consideration Fallout 76, obviously. I'm not taking into consideration Starfield. I'm not going to take into consideration Elder Scrolls 6. So those 3 games, if I'm just a fan of Fallout, don't exist to me. So now I'm waiting 18 years for a game. That game better blow my mind. And I think that's the problem that all these developers are having, is their turnaround times are so long, where fans of a particular game, not a studio, particular game, have expectations that I don't think ever can be met. That's why I think, one, Rockstar is its own special entity that can kind of get away with it, because they know every game. The general public understands that when Rockstar's name is on a game, it means something, and it's going to perform very well, where companies like CDPR are understanding that, and that's why they've created 3 studios to work on their 3 different IPs in order to satisfy, hey, we need to hit a game like every other year to keep those franchises alive and to keep those players happy. Because even if, obviously, from Witcher 3 to Witcher 4 is going to be about a decade and some, right? Because you had Cyberpunk and you had the DLC, the Phantom Liberty expansion, that felt like a completely new game. I think people are willing to forgive The Witcher 4 a bit more. And then when The Witcher 5 comes out 4 years later, 5 years later, instead of 10 years later, and Cyberpunk 2 is going to come out, and then their new game, and then they're going to have a new game every other year, I think people are going to be a lot more forgiving and not going to expect as much. And I actually think that works out to both us, the consumer, and the developer directly.
like, it's just crazy. Friday, Luke, I hope you're having a great day. About this generation supposedly being the worst is looking at it the wrong way. A lot has changed in the last 20 years. Hugs and kisses to you too, my friend. Well, I think there's always, like, it's more nuanced than that. Like, in terms of hardware, has this generation been the worst as a consumer? I think probably so. I mean, prices have not dropped, they've gone up. Even accounting for inflation, prices are at the very best case scenario, depending on which device you're looking at, have laid flat. But more like, for us, practically speaking, prices have gone up significantly, even when you adjust for inflation, when you look at the entire industry. When you consider how much you're expected to spend on subscriptions, cost of living, everything has skyrocketed. Games literally are more expensive now, going to $70. And, well, you adjust it for inflation, it's basically the same. Sure, but again, we have to get pedantic to like try and excuse it away. I think as a consumer, this has been a rough generation. As a gamer, it's been solid. There's been some amazing games. But as a consumer, you know, on that side of the dynamic of the industry, with like people selling you something and you're the one buying something, it's been a rough time to be a buyer. You know, it's been a rough time to be a buyer. And I think it's going to stay tough for a bit. You know, it's not, there's no easy out, it seems. There's no easy out, it seems, which is tricky. There's been a good gen for early adopters. Yeah, it's just, you know, I feel for the young guys, the high schoolers, the college students, the people that are working the rough jobs and are scraping by. Because I've been there, man. I've been there with like 39 cents in my checking account. Can't even afford a pack of ramen noodles. You know, like I've been at that edge. And one of the things that I could always go back to was gaming and being able to, get into gaming, save up for something, but it wasn't like crushingly expensive. I remember saving up and getting like a base PS4, a PS4 Slim, and it was like 2016, came bundled with Uncharted 4, and I remember like having to save up for it, and it was a big deal to get it. But it was achievable, even working as a janitor at the time for basically minimum wage. It was doable. Nowadays, man, like it's just different, dude. Like just surviving is barely doable, it seems, for a lot of people. So I feel for those people. It sucks because I think gaming should.
So he actually didn't touch on the whole development cycles, or pricing plays a huge part of it also. I don't want to belabor that point. I think, like he said, as a consumer, it's been rough. It's been really, really rough. I can't imagine a world where companies are going to be like, oh, people have been paying these prices, we're going to go back down. Like, I don't imagine a world. The whole point of companies is to make their stockholders, their shareholders richer, right? So which means that pricing isn't going to go down. And by the time it does and inflation catches up to it, it's not really going to go down anyway. They might hold pricing and say, hey, like this generation, we're going to keep pricing exactly where we left off. They'll sell it as a blessing for us, but in reality, it's not that at all. Yeah, again, I just think we need to get out of this live service era. I think we need to get out of, and I'm not saying we need to get rid of multiplayer games. That's not what I'm saying at all. I think we need to get rid of this monetization scheme that they've developed, because companies look at it like a never-ending money pit. I'm telling you, if the game keeps heading that way, we'll never get there. We'll never get there, unfortunately. Do I personally believe this is the worst console generation? I actually think, he kind of hit it right on the nail, that as a buyer, it's not great. The world isn't great economically. So being a buyer in any market, regardless of gaming, is hard. I think games this generation have blown me away. I think the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 era, I would say there was like 4 or 5 games a year at minimum that blew me away. That felt like 2 generations that was the case. I even remember the PlayStation 2 era, man, playing Jak and Daxter. The fun of the games, I think, have gone away. I just think every game tries to take itself too seriously, and I know I'm not playing platformers like Jak and Daxter as much anymore, and maybe that's my fault. Yeah, I remember PS3, what was it? I would play Little Big Planet. Oh my god, I would play Little Big Planet. I remember I would game with my squad Call of Duty, right? Gamed hard. And you know how lobbies were back in the day. Call of Duty lobbies were no joke. I just remember we would play hours to like from 9 o'clock at night to 2 o'clock in the morning, and then we would just be so frustrated that we'd be like, you know what, let's hop off, let's play Little Big Planet, and we would have fun. It would be fun to just play Little Big Planet, I do believe games now, I just feel like there's only 1 or 2 great games a year now. And does that make this the worst console generation? I don't think so, but it's definitely not the best. And I think that's what we expect from new generations. It's just to be better upon the last. And I can say that I don't think it is. I don't think it's better than the PS4 era. I don't think it's better than the PS3 era. And again, I wasn't really socially aware of the PS2 era worth of games. The multiplayer element was not really important to those games. I feel like the PlayStation 2 era was gaming for you, where PS3 and PS4 era was gaming for you and your friends. And then this era has just been all over live service and just trying to get every dollar they can. So yeah, that's my thoughts. I would love to hear yours in the comments. Be sure to comment, obviously. I'd love to discuss this with you guys. YouTube thing out of the way. Let's make sure you leave a like, you subscribe, comment, share, hit the notification bell. We're at 35 subscribers, which is 5 more from 30 about a week ago. So we're picking up there. And like I said, I have videos now that are into 10,000 views. So 50 plus comments and 2,000 plus likes on a video. So I definitely think we're picking up. I definitely think we're becoming more consistent, and we're getting shown to the right people at the right time, at the right places. And obviously I do this because I like to. So, and I have a broken leg. So I can't really do much else at the moment. With that said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.